Hi, I'm Diana Cao. I'm a poet, and Slipstream is my first full-length collection out on August 15th, 2026. I am very grateful to the Boulder Bookstore for allowing me to share some things about the making of this book. This is a collection I wrote across more than a decade, and I put it together while I was in law school. It moves through questions of memory, family, and systems, legal and technological. And it's really interested in what those systems can't quite hold and in what poetry can do in that space. Been given a few questions to answer about the book, and so the first one is, what inspired you to write the poetry in this book? Well, as I mentioned, I'd been writing poems that would eventually end up in the book over the last 15 years or so. And a lot of the older poems are in the first section, which deals with origins, legacy, what we inherit from our families, and what we'll never be able to recover. My parents came to the US in the 1980s following the Cultural Revolution in China, and while there are a few well-worn stories that they'll talk um, about that time, there's a lot that they won't talk about, and I don't think I'll ever know. So some of this book was me reconciling with the knowledge of everything I'd never know. And I think I put the book together in law school because while I was in law school, I really needed a language that didn't force things to resolve, and I found that in poetry. The next question is, this work deals with a lot of different topics: daughterhood, friendship, desire, citizenship, species. Did you have a favorite topic to explore while writing this? Oh, I love this question. I mean, like I said, I kept returning to questions of memory and of care, both personal and historical. My mom has been losing her memory over the last decade, and she's at a point now where she's easily disoriented and she won't always recognize me or my sister in the moment. And I think a lot of times we believe that family history or past hurts can be relitigated, and I had to really come to terms with understanding that at some point you can't do that anymore. And that understanding is obviously tied up in the understanding that we all have limited time here on Earth. And I think the thread going through this book is about how to be as alive as possible while we're here, and how to care for ourselves and for others, and how the planet keeps going without us. Uh, the next question. This book has a unique structure. Can you tell us about your writing process and style for this book? Uh, okay, so as I said, I wrote these poems over so much time. I really wasn't thinking that I was making a book while I was writing them. And so the structure is something I discovered only when I started trying to put the poems in conversation with each other. And my teacher, Joy Graham, was actually hugely helpful in identifying the three large sections of the book. The first being about origins and inheritance, and the second being about human-made systems, like algorithms, capitalism, and then the final section is kind of a way out of all of that, or at least a way to expand beyond the first two sections by thinking about cyclical and natural time. Hmm. What do you hope readers walk away with after reading your poetry? Uh, I mean, I hope readers feel a little bit more permission to sit in uncertainty, and to follow a thought without needing it to resolve, because I think that's really what writing the poems did for me. What are a couple of books you've read recently that you really loved? This is one of my favorite questions. In poetry, I really loved Rosalie Moffat's Making a Living. I just love the way her mind moves on the page, and the questions around parenthood and also consumerism and how absurd and inescapable so much of it is. And like one of my favorite things about poetry in general is that it allows you to follow somebody's idiosyncratic train of thought. And I just really like Rosalie Moffat's mind. Outside of poetry, I just read E.M. Forster's A Room with a View for the first time, and I found myself like underlining something on every page. I think it's so funny, and I had such a good time reading it. Um, Lastly, is there anything else you want us to know about your book? Um, I mean, not really. I'm just really grateful to places like Boulder Bookstore that support poetry and create space for these kinds of conversations. I'm really excited to share my first book with readers here, and yeah, just grateful for the space. And and finally, I will just read a short poem from the book. Uh, this one is called Ordinary Trouble, and it's a sestina, so it's six stanzas of six lines with the same ending words repeating. I tried to be sneaky about it, but maybe you'll catch them. Uh, Ordinary Trouble. By the third stanza, it's easy to forget why I started this poem, so I abandon it. Today's new sequence looks like yesterday's. There's nothing to write home about. Love is love. Big ideas are sleight of hand untroubled by an after. I'm healthily troubled, according to my therapist. It's natural to forget, Holly says, that spring can feel like the end of it. Drunk bees flowering like last time, like it's the last time. The deranged bees have it right. When it comes, the end will appear as another bright idea, not an emergency exit. My worst ideas don't get much air in therapy, where my trouble comes from realizing what I want to forget has a life of its own. Not every poem can be a hit. What you recall isn't what it was like. There's violence too in getting it right most of the time. I'm done trying to be right most of the time. The marketplace of ideas inflates whenever I check on it. Trouble still finds me, though I swear to forget it, swear not to know what I know, swear it was a different poem where I acted like there was an order to things, wrote it like you too could see it. Like a writer in seasonal disorder, every idea is hollow if you're in deep enough. There's trouble, and then there's trouble. I forget if seasonal means every season in this climate. I wish I could put my finger on the it of it, the reason I started this poem. Reader, I like you. Like you, there are times I think I'm mostly right. I find my mistakes in the repetition, ideas worn in the mind by rhyme. You're troubled for a moment by its echo, then you forget. Thank you.